So, hello and welcome to this final live that I'm going to be doing with another Ukrainian teacher of English. Final for 2024, not final. Given the ongoing nature of the war, I guess I'm going to be continuing these into 2025, the way things are looking. Thank you to those of you watching and to everyone who's supported the channel this year. It's been, great keeping in touch with people and trying to do a mixture of, English language teaching stuff. I am, by the way, thinking of doing one more live before the end of the year, just talking about teaching. So if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask, thoughts on teaching, please do just drop me a line or get in touch. But this is the last one of the talks I'll be doing with Ukrainian teachers. So as I was saying, trying with the page that I run here to do a mixture of language teaching stuff, language learning, tips and micro learning lessons and that kind of thing. Some London related stuff and talking about the ongoing situation in Ukraine, Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine. So today I'm going to be talking to Olena, who is in Kharkiv, up in the sort of northeast of Ukraine, very, very close to the Russian border, kind of quite a problematic place to be. Although for all of the talk about, Russia's indomitable military might, you have to remember that in almost 3 years now of full-scale war against Ukraine, they've not managed to take Kharkiv. It's always good to bear in mind the hype surrounding Russian military capabilities and possibly the covering up of the brittleness and the weaknesses that lie beneath the bravado and the chest beating. So I'll just wait for Olena to join us. I can see she's just joined. I think she now just has to ask to be added live. Let me just view the request. To all the people joining us, by the way. I think that should work. Let's see what happens. Not sure what the situation is with power in Kharkiv. Hey!
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Glad to see you.
Hey, how are you?
Well, fine. Trying not to be a Grinch this Christmas. Trying to, get a little bit into this Christmas mood. Hard with the weather that we are having. It's raining.
Not rain, not snow.
Yes, it's rain. Well, there was snow. It all melted. Now it's foggy, rainy, and very muddy. Yeah, really nasty.
And have you got power where you are?
Yes. Yeah, so far so good. I think the last power cut was like last week. So far it's fine. Should be fine.
This is good. And are you just staying in Kharkiv over Christmas? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I didn't have any plans. I had a small vacation like a couple of weeks ago. I think I've done my vacation time. So I'll keep working. Yeah, I'll be working. Maybe just not working on Christmas itself and on the New Year day, but basically like no breaks. Yeah, so I keep working.
And how are you doing your Christmases these days? Because I know lots of Ukrainians switched from the old way of doing it to the Western way of doing it. And
I'm totally not religious. So Christmas for me, it's not about religion. It's more about some traditions. But the problem is, like, since I am in the east of Ukraine, where most of the traditions have been kind of lost in a big city, like it's not lost in smaller villages, but in big cities, unfortunately, much of it, like most of it has been, has been taken away. And we are only now trying to have it back, trying to relearn about it. So to me, it was absolutely easy to switch to this like back, I don't know, like old new style, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like to celebrate with the whole world, like not with Russia. So it's easy for me in that way. So what I have done, like I'm gonna cook a few traditional dishes, have my son my older son, like for this Christmas Eve food, like this meal. Basically that's it. Yeah, so maybe like watch something, talk a little bit, but nothing really, fancy or festive, like really not into that, especially now.
You're breaking up a little bit there, Lena. Oh, you're okay. It kind of, sometimes you're buffering a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah. I also sometimes kind of lose you in pixels, but I think we're back.
It's fine. It's fine. And am I right in thinking there's this kind of tradition of like the 12 dishes of Ukrainian Christmas or something?
Yes, you know, I've never done that. Just today, I watched, yeah. You know, it's not difficult to cook 12. It's just difficult to think of 12 traditional ones. Again, you have to learn about that. Just today, I watched a fresh video from one of like documentary channels that we have in Ukraine. Like they have been like popping up, like lots of them recently, some of them like really, really good. So just today, I watched another video about these like 12 dishes. They are from different parts of Ukraine, and very interesting to see how the same dish is everywhere, but with variations. And it's like really cool to know that, you know, like we have something that really is the same for all of us. But since the country is not tiny as many people think, the country is pretty big. So we have all those like regional variations, and it is so cool to learn about that. But I'm not gonna cook 12. No.
Yeah, I don't blame you for this. So for people who maybe are outside Ukraine and don't know much about Ukraine, I think the first thing I was going to ask you is just to tell us a bit about Kharkiv, because it's a very specific kind of city in my experience. And
it is. Yeah. It is. And you know, like the funny thing about it is that now there are lots and lots of memes about Kharkiv, because people who are staying here are the ones who really don't want to leave because they love it. And some people from other parts, they say like, well, you are just getting us tired with all this, your love for Kharkiv. But that's really how people feel. Like people who are here, even people who have left for some reasons, who couldn't stay, maybe like for small kids or something, it's like people really, really love the city. You know, and to me, it's very interesting to see how it has changed. So basically, for those who don't know, yeah, like Kharkiv, probably the name is well known already, unfortunately, not for very happy reasons, because it's like almost right on the border with Russia. It's like the first big city, which is like million plus people in it. I think we still have something like that, because many people returned. Anyway, so it was like one of the first attacked. It was one of the first land where the Russian invasion actually came. And it was the first where they were kicked. And it was absolutely amazing to see how people here just stood up and seeing, like, you know, nearly in the center of the city, seeing those burned Russian Tiger trucks, because nobody expected that the city would stand up like that. I think we even didn't expect that we can do it. So anyway, like life in Kharkiv, yeah, like many people left definitely from the first days of invasion. There have been lots of queues. People didn't know what to do. So people really, like lots of people were running. People were just hopping into their cars, trying to save their pets, trying to save their children. Our railway was working like 24/7, trying to help people evacuate. And in the first month, I didn't go, like, I'm currently like staying in my town, in small town 20 kilometers from Kharkiv, like west from Kharkiv, which appeared to be the right direction. So it's a little bit further. But anyway, like I was born in Kharkiv, I lived all my life in Kharkiv, I worked in Kharkiv, I still go to Kharkiv like all the time. To me, it's like, you know, like, I don't know, it's like satellite town near Kharkiv. So to me, like, I still don't separate it, because it's kind of, to me, it's still part of it. So I didn't go to Kharkiv itself, this like, you know, 15 kilometers or something, didn't go for 3 months. And the first time I came was in May 2022. And that was totally heartbreaking, because the city was empty, like no traffic lights were working, lots and lots of ruins, lots of ruined buildings. And since we're really all in love with our like old buildings, like really the city center, the historic one, it's not that old, it's like all the same age as, like the city center is like the same age as Odessa, so it's like 200 years. Yeah. Kharkiv is older, yeah, but actually like this, you know, the face of it is like 200, 150, even less years old. So much of it was destroyed, like lots of windows broken. And that like first impression really was heartbreaking. And I remember that when I saw that some shops keep working, that all the markets and people keep working, even then, I was like coming up to them, hugging them and crying, you know, like I felt like so, like people stayed. But after that, especially like in September 2022, large territory of like Kharkiv region was liberated. It was amazing to like watch it. It's like, if I go like, to the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea, like another village has been liberated in this time. It was like very, very fast. Yeah, it was very fast. And that was very motivating. And after that, lots of people returned. I think we have, there's definitely like fewer people now than there used to be before the invasion. However, we still have a lot of people who have fled from the real border, like from villages and smaller towns, like closer to Russia. So there are lots of people in Kharkiv who were not in Kharkiv in the first place. So I think we still have like maybe not 1 million, maybe like, I don't know, 800,000, something like that. But now it's still, it's like crowded. We still have like traffic jams, so it's almost like it was before. But of course, it's, like Kharkiv is changing. And on the one hand, it's always sad to see like, like favorite places closing down. Like some cafe didn't make it, they closed down. Some like small shop which you loved and like you used to go there, it closed down. On the other hand, new places are opening up. And that is like really inspiring, that is really motivating. And there have been lots of new things and new collaborations. Like we now have like some like chain cafes from Kharkiv opening up in Lviv and Kiev and the other way around. So there are some like places that are, face of Odessa, face of Lviv. Yeah, like they're here, they're open, they're working.
Have you got
there is not probably
a drunken cherry?
Yes, we do. Yes. Well, like it's difficult to imagine it. And like I think 1, 2, 3. Well, I remember at least 3 places that used to be open before the invasion. They're still there, same places. At least 3, I can say. Yeah, probably 3. Yeah. So it's working.
And you said you grew up in Kharkiv, yeah?
Yes, I was born here. I studied here. I started my career here. Like, got family. So it's all my life is here.
And could you maybe tell us a bit more about your family and your family background, Lena?
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, there is not much to tell because I only know like my parents. I don't even know much about my grandparents. I mean, I knew them. I had my grandmothers, grandfathers. But, I was thinking about this today even. They were happy to speak about like their life when they were with us, but they hardly ever spoke about what came before. Like my grandparents were already my grandmothers were kids during the Second World War. My grandfathers fought in it, but it was something that they were not willing to speak about. I know very, very few facts. I don't know all those like family tales to tell. There is, and I was talking about this with my son yesterday, that we don't have this, history to tell. It had like broke, and we are now reinventing ourselves on those, like wreckage of that life and the life that we didn't know about. I'm now studying a little bit general like Ukrainian tradition. See, I'm wearing a necklace. That's what I'm doing. I started this as a hobby, which helps me donate more during the invasion, like after the invasion, during the war. And I realized that in some parts of Ukraine, I'm not saying that they are luckier, like all of us have been screwed, but they have like maybe 1 generation less the Soviet occupation. And they have kept at least some connection. They have their grandmothers who remembered how it was before the Soviet time, and I don't. And why I remembered about this, like about the necklace, we don't have any material heritage. Like I don't have, and I know other people who don't. No, not a towel or rushnik, not even a real towel, like not a shirt, not a piece of clothing, not a piece of, I don't know, some tableware, like nothing, absolutely. There is nothing that I can say, like, well, this belonged to my great-grandmother, nothing. So there is like nothing to build on, that's why I feel like, standing on some shattered grounds, trying to find, some balance, but it's all kind of shaking because there is nothing to build on. But my family, like my parents, like I'm an only child. My mother and father used to be like Soviet engineers. I was also thinking like about why why did I get into teaching? You know, I guess I went with the flow. I didn't choose it, it kind of chose me, which I'm very happy about. It just appeared that it just appeared sometimes that I'm pretty good at languages and like it comes easy to me. So just like, okay, I will go that way. So I started like English courses, then I went to some like specialized school at the the high school. Then I went to university. So it kind of just happened to me, you know. I cannot say that I was choosing, but I think it was just kind of intuitive way of going with it.
And when you were growing up, was your family Russian speaking?
Yes, well, it still is. Like my parents still speak Russian. They are trying, well, my father at least tries to speak Ukrainian with me. You know, I turned to speaking Ukrainian before the invasion. I think it was like maybe summer 2020. Yeah, I think it was during the pandemic. I think so. And it was just, you know, I know Ukrainian, I knew Ukrainian, I translated books from English into Ukrainian, I have some books published, so Ukrainian is not a problem for me. But yeah, we spoke Russian here.
So when you were growing up, were you learning Ukrainian at school, yeah?
You know, I kind of, it's difficult to say that we learned it. It was like so secondary.
Yeah.
It was felt that it unnecessary. And they were like, you know, special, a few lessons per week. Like, you know, there were some, a couple of hours per week for English and the same amount of hours for Ukrainian. So I think you couldn't learn Ukrainian at school unless there was somebody you could speak to like outside school. But since I don't know, like since languages kind of come easy to me, I think that Ukrainian just was like growing up, yeah, like I hear a bit here, I read something there. That's why I had this, you know, baggage building up. So when my son decided, I said, like, let's try and speak Ukrainian at home. It's like, okay, why not? So we kind of did that. But at that time, I was only speaking Ukrainian to my family, and when people spoke Russian to me, I replied Russian. Now I hardly ever do that. Sometimes I can answer in Russian, especially when there's like everybody speaking in Russian, and I kind of, you know, intuitively, like without thinking, I say it in Russian. I try to switch back immediately. I really kind of sometimes hate myself for that. Don't really want to. But what I'm happy about is that like every single person around me have switched to Ukrainian when they speak to me. I'm not sure they do it all the time, but when they speak to me, they speak Ukrainian. And I kind of, you know, take pride in it in a way, yes, that I'm kind of contributing to spreading Ukrainian around myself.
I mean, I'm sure you know, but one of the great lies and myths of the Russian invasion is this whole thing about the genocide of Russian speakers in Donbass and protecting our and protecting Russian speakers. And one thing that I've noticed again and again doing these lives is, I mean, almost every Ukrainian I've ever met is bilingual or trilingual. I mean, the ones who speak English are trilingual.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
When I've traveled around Ukraine myself, I mean, I've heard Russian spoken all over the place. You know, it's like when I was in Donetsk, people spoke Russian. When I was in Kharkiv, people were speaking Russian, in Kiev, in Odessa. And then I still get emails from Russian teachers saying, what about the genocide of Russian speakers in Ukraine? And it's like,
such a big lie. You know, I can tell you my experience. Here, when my older son started school, it was back in 2009, I think, something like that. And I wanted him to go to a Ukrainian speaking school, but I couldn't find any.
yeah.
Here in Kharkiv, in my neighborhood, yes, they existed, but in the school, which was kind of more or less near us, like there were like 3 schools which I were considering to the place where we lived. I chose one school because that was like, I thought it, well, I liked it best. And they promised there would be like 2 Russian speaking classes and 1 Ukrainian speaking class. And I said like, well, I want my son there. But then when they were starting, they said like, sorry, no, we cannot open a Ukrainian speaking class because we only have 8 kids. So it will still be Russian speaking. So like, tell about Russian being oppressed, you know?
Yeah.
However, there is one thing which I discussed with some people I know from the Donetsk area, the Donbass area. I have one good friend, like my husband's friend from there. He like left, he lives here. He said that when he was at school, it seemed that on the local level, on the local authorities level, they were really trying to impose Ukrainian in the nastiest possible way. It looked like they were trying to cause this hate, you know. So they were trying to make people, even those officials who did not speak Ukrainian themselves well, they were trying to make people switch to sign documents. It's not that anybody was making people speak it, but it was at school there were teachers who didn't speak Ukrainian well, but they were trying to teach in Ukrainian in those areas, which actually just it worsens the quality of teaching because the teachers couldn't speak the language. So it looked like they would, I'm not saying that it's everywhere, it's in a couple of places from which I know people. It looked like they were trying to cause this hatred, Ukrainian nationalists are banning Russian language. It seemed it was like that. But here in Kharkiv, when I was in university, anybody who spoke Ukrainian, they said, oh, that's a village guy, here, Ukrainian was not taken seriously. Absolutely. If you hear someone talking Ukrainian, it would be really? Where is he from? And it was absolutely unusual to hear people speak Ukrainian here. Yes, we had some, I don't remember when it started, but yeah, we had some Ukrainian TV channels. But again, it was not the favorite ones. It's you could watch them for some, well, we had this legendary TV show, Elf. I don't know if you know about it, but here it was legendary, and the translation into Ukrainian was brilliant. So yeah, people kind of watched that. But other than that, no, people tended to choose Russian speaking. Yeah, Tanya is saying hi, hello, dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tanya, happy to hear that you're with us. I saw her yesterday. Yeah, we had tea together. So, it's when people say about genocide, come on, genocide is happening now because the Russian-speaking areas were the first to be bombed and just erased completely by Russia. That's what's happening now. All those areas, they used to be Russian-speaking. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. I was thinking a minute ago when you were talking about the lost links with family history. And I think one thing that lots of people who don't know Ukraine don't understand is that what's happening now is part of a long history of attempts to destroy Ukraine and Ukrainian identity, and, to destroy the Ukrainian language and to privilege Russian and to privilege this idea of, the imperial culture, great Russian culture. And I know that in the occupied territory, one of the first things they do is ban the teaching of Ukrainian and remove all of the memorials
and burn the books. Yeah, so they burn the books. It's in the traditions of Fahrenheit 451. Yeah, so they're burning books.
Yeah. So for you personally, when did you first sort of start to think about politics? When did you have any kind of moment where you started to kind of
Yes. Yeah, I remember that really well. It was in 2004 when we had our Orange Revolution, and when we had the whole country for the first time divide into orange and blue, white blue. Yeah, orange was Yushchenko and pro-European way, and this because those were the colors of the election campaign. Yeah, so orange was Yushchenko and that was pro-European, and then this yellow, white and blue was Yanukovych, and that was pro-Russia, and that was the first time when it became very visible. Am I on? There was some
No, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that was the first time when I saw the difference, when I felt the difference. I was in my early 20s, and that was when I realized that you kind of have to choose something. And I saw that a lot of people were, to me, it was all through people. It was not about, it's not that I started watching political news or political observers. That's what I'm mostly doing now. All my free time is filled with that. But it wasn't like that really. It was through people. Because when I realized that some person is talking complete shit, that was somebody who was pro-Yanukovych. To me, it was through people that I felt it. And in 2004, when this election was rigged, and people protested against that. We also had Maidan in Kharkiv. People may not know, but in Kharkiv we have a huge, huge square.
Yeah.
It used to be called the biggest square in Europe. I'm not sure it really is, but it is huge. So we had our own Maidan, and I was there every day. I was there, like wearing orange things, carrying orange balloons. And yes, I didn't work that much at that time because I had like, just separate classes, maybe like 10 hours per week, like not really big yet. So I had time for that, and I did go there. And then I realized that, yes, there is a clear division. And yes, you have to, like, if you want to have what you want, you have to choose it actively. Yeah. And do something towards it. So that was like the first time when I got into it, but I cannot say that I'm really political activist. I may be a little bit of that now, but I think it like took me many years to evolve like that.
And what are your memories then, fast forwarding a bit, of 2014? Because I know there were attempts to kind of try to annex Kharkiv at that point as well, yeah? There was the failed Kharkiv People's Republic.
Oh, yeah. Fortunately, it never happened. I did not take part in that actively, just because it was like family issues. I was moving house, like my husband was sick. So I was like a little bit too carried away in my like personal problems. There were some like work-related issues at that time, but I came to the square, like to our Maidan a couple of times, so I cannot say that I really was like active at that time. But you could see in Kharkiv people who pretended to be from Kharkiv, who were brought here just to create this visibility of some pro-Russian crowd, and it was so easy to see that they are not from here. They really it looked like they picked the dumbest and most stupid looking people they could. Probably they were, because like they were paid for that. It was like, there were again a lot of memes and jokes, like how they were claiming that they were from Kharkiv, how they were losing their way around Kharkiv. And like they couldn't use the underground, and they couldn't use, like they didn't know where to go. They didn't know where the like municipal buildings were. So that was, again, just fills me with pride for my city when those idiots in Russia say that Kharkiv is a Russian city. Come on, it's not, and it's showed it many times. So yeah, like at that time I was maybe more of a witness, not an active participant, but I remember that, of course.
And then what was your experience at the start of the full-scale invasion in February 22?
Yeah, I remember that really well. Just a couple of weeks before that, when there were these like military forces building up on the border, for the first time, I started kind of freaking out a bit. Generally, I'm a pretty well-balanced person. I never panic. I just think like, okay, we have a problem. What do we do with it now? But then I was kind of probably the first time in my life when I was kind of close to panicking. And I was even thinking about like going somewhere, moving from Kharkiv, like maybe to the central part of Ukraine. I was even like asking contacts for some like estate agents to rent an apartment somewhere, like in Chernivtsi somewhere. And I asked my husband, he was alive at that time. I asked him like, well, let's go, like at least like until it all, finishes. And he said like, well, how can we go? Like we had one car at that time. It's like 4 of us, plus parents, plus dog, plus pregnant cats. So it was just like, impossible to pack everyone into the car and just go. Yeah. Yeah, which we didn't have. Yeah, so I just, I remember like the weekend before the invasion was morning of Thursday. I remember that really well. I remember that I was discussing this with my husband the previous weekend, Sunday and Saturday. And then, like, when it all started, I remember how I was woken up. I have a chat in Telegram with Tanya, hello Tanya, and one more friend, like our also colleague. And generally, all my chats are muted for the night. And but if you are not, like with my like closest friends, family, so like they can ping me and reach me. And it was like, I don't know, 5 in the morning. I was like, oh my God, it's still too early for the alarm. Like, why? Who wants something from me at this like ungodly hour? So I checked it, and it was Ira, and she lived in the area of Kharkiv, which is closer to the border. And he said, like, we're getting bombed. And she said, like, we are, like, I'm taking my daughters, I have, like, my things packed, and I'm leaving. And that was when I fully woke up. And then, like, Tanya said a few things. But you know, again, I wasn't panicking. I don't know why. Now, like, looking back at it, maybe I should have, but I didn't. So, like, the first thing I did, yeah, like, I packed this emergency, not suitcase, but like backpack. I took photos of all the documents and like uploaded them into the cloud just to make sure that I can find them, like all these like passports, you know, like all that stuff for all my family. I called some other friends and said, like, have you been woken up? Like, leave, just go somewhere. I know that I like motivated a few people to just go. I also called my in-laws with whom my younger son was staying. I said, like, now, immediately, just you pack and come to us. So it was like, so they had to take a bus, you know, to get here. And they said, like, well, no, yeah, we hear it. Yeah, there are some explosions, but it can't be serious. It will probably stop in a couple of hours. And, you know, they know that I'm not to argue with when I stand on something. So they, like, I convinced them. I nearly screamed at them, but I just made them pack and come, like, leave Kharkiv, come here. Again, it's pretty close to Kharkiv, but it's a little bit, you know, further west, a little bit, like further away from the border. So I remember that. I remember that all my classes get cancelled because like all my students were on the way somewhere. I remember that all the like working chats were just screaming all the time with notifications because people kept like asking each other, do you have one extra place in your car? Like, can you take my cat? So I remember that. So the first like couple of weeks were like that. So it was like no work. It was like total madness. People just moving, asking. And I remember that I immediately jumped on Instagram, which I had been using for spreading English, for teaching English, for helping students, but it immediately turned into, I don't know how to call it, even like a Russophobia channel probably. So I started like informing people what's going on, and there were lots of people asking for some contacts and people giving contacts. For example, like, I'm leaving, I have one place in the car. If you have someone, please, like, let me know, jump into my car. Or like, we have left, but we have like our old granny somewhere. Please, can you come check up on her? So it was like all the time. So people were like leaving messages and asking for help and offering help. So I was like trying to, you know, help with that. I was like, you know, giving people numbers, trying to do something, trying to connect people. So that's what I was busy with the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I remember it very well myself, trying to find houses for people in Poland and Budapest and stuff, try to fix people up. And I realised, despite having known you a long time, I've never actually asked you, but did you experience any kind of shelling yourself? Were you near any shelling while it was going on?
Yes, not too near. Like, I have been lucky, but in this town where I am, we had several big explosions. It's like, well, 1 kilometer away, maybe even less than that. So there have been some here. Plus, this year already, I was in the shop downstairs where the upstairs was bombed. So I was like kind of in the middle of it. I don't know how we survived. Nobody was killed that time. It was here, like here in my town. My town is a big railway junction. It's a real town, you know. It's big territorial, but it's mostly like, you know, detached houses. Just a few they're not even high-rise buildings, like 2-story, 3-story buildings. So mostly it's like a ground lot here with a house on it, some cottages. So it's mostly like this. It looks more like a village. But since it is a huge railway junction, it has the status of a town, and it's pretty important. So it's like everything that goes from Kharkiv to Kiev, all that, like Poltava, all that part, it goes through my town.
Okay.
So they have been trying to hit this like railway junction many times. But since it's like the town is not that huge, and near it there is like a hospital, there are some shops, You never know what exactly they're trying to hit. Are they trying to hit the hospital, or are they trying to hit, like there is, for example, the college, and in that college we had some supplies, like humanitarian aid supplies. My son was working there as volunteer, so it got hit. And like my son was there cleaning it all up, you know, like all dirty and scratched, like carrying all this like rubbles to trying to clear it up. So like I was not like people who are in Kharkiv bombed all the time, but I hear all the explosions. I hear drones flying overhead. Yesterday I was woken up by another explosion, probably air defense working. So yeah, like I've been lucky not to be in the epicenter of the explosion somewhere. Well, as close as it could get, but so far alive.
But during this whole time, you never planned to leave?
I'm asking myself why, but actually no. You know, I was asked by many people, and a lot of people were inviting me to go with them. I have lots of friends abroad, like in Canada, in the US, in Australia, like people, like my former classmates, for example, and people said like, well, you can work from anywhere in the world. Like I teach online, right? Like, please come, like we will help you around. But ever since the very like first day, I just, you know, I felt that I got my roots here. Like I felt it more than ever before, that I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere even for a vacation. Like I had my first vacation this like a couple of weeks ago. It's like in all this time, yeah, like my first vacation to go somewhere, yeah, like to leave the place. So I feel like more than ever that I belong here and I want to be here, and I can help people who are elsewhere, but I don't want to go.
Yeah. It's funny with Tanya being here as well, because I remember her saying that she stayed in Kharkiv for like the first 2 years, and then she was offered a place in Coventry, and went to Coventry in England and sort of thought, you know, I'm away from all of the bombing. And while she was there, she felt kind of useless and distant from everything, and ended up deciding to sort of go back for a bit. And I remember her saying that when you're actually in the city, you can be more useful because you can volunteer, you can tidy things up, you can, you know, when you're watching from a distance, you're kind of more helpless in a way.
You know, I felt this very much when I was like on this vacation. I was with my friends, well, my students who have become my friends. And they are also like from everywhere, from different cities of Poland. One girl is from Portugal, one girl lives in Ireland. So we all kind of got together, like rented this place. So I was like there, like in Portugal. And that was exactly the time when this Oreshnik thing hit Dnipro. And I felt so weird being away from it. And I saw how other people were reacting. Like they are my friends. They have their families here. Like some have their husbands here, some have their parents here, but they were not that into it. And I felt that like during these times that they have been away from it, they kind of lost touch a little bit. Like I started reading immediately. I started like finding out where it was, what happened, and they're like, yeah, okay. You know, so it looks like, of course, yeah, they are still like Ukrainian and hot and everything, but I felt this difference. Maybe they are saving their nerves and they are less stressed, and I'm happy for them, but I don't want to be like that. I'm not saying that what they're doing is bad. You know, there is this thing like, well, we feel that somebody who left, they like betrayed the country. I don't feel like that. Everybody's saving their lives the way they can, especially when they have kids. But I don't want to be like that. I don't want to lose this touch. I feel that I need it, and I feel that I have it when I'm here.
And how has the last sort of nearly 3 years now, I guess, kind of affected your teaching?
Interesting. You know, I've had, since I teach adults, I mostly teach people in IT, like developers, designers, QA engineers. My students changed a little bit. Some of them, those who didn't need English that much, for example, human resources specialists, they didn't need English that much. Now I have a lot of students who work in IT, who are HRs in IT, because they used to be hiring mainly within Ukraine. So it's like every person in IT in Ukraine needs English. Yeah, like they communicate with customers directly. They have like daily meetings, so they need English. That's why it's like IT is a real, you know, like there are lots of teachers there. Like there is a lot of demand, but HRs weren't involved. Now HRs are hiring from everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Like our Ukrainian IT companies have people from Brazil, from South Africa, from Montenegro, from Italy, from Mexico, from like lots of countries in South America, Argentina. I'm just remembering like recent stories. So they do need English. So like the number of my students has kind of started to include more HRs on the one hand. On the other hand, I generally teach more kind of advanced levels because like, well, people do not come in IT when they are like A1 level. Like, no, usually it's like intermediate and above. Very few even pre-intermediate students. But I have now some students who are like elementary level. They're mostly family members of my students or my former students. For example, like I used to have a student who was like a project manager in IT. They moved to Canada. Now her husband needs English and he didn't know it at all. So we are starting, well, maybe not like from alphabet, yeah, but we have started from pretty low level. So I have a few students like that now. So that's what has changed. Generally, like who is learning?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I guess the next thing I wanted to ask you was, and well, I kind of don't know how you feel about the question. I was wondering, you know, living so close to the border, if you had friends or family on the other side of the border before 2022, and if you did, how that worked? Have you made contact? What's that been like for you?
You know, I'm lucky enough not to have any relatives, or none that I know of. So it didn't like break my family anyhow, but I used to have a friend, my best friend, in fact, who I consider to be my best friend. Tanya knows her. We studied together at university. She's from Kharkiv. She's also an English teacher. And she used to be my best friend. I mean, like we communicated with voicemails like every day for maybe 10 years, you know, like really like we shared everything. I don't have sisters. She doesn't either. So we were kind of like sisters, you know, like really, really close. Like she knew kind of everything about me, I think, and the same. But she moved to Moscow right after university. It was like big love, family, all that kind of stuff. So she stayed there. And but she used to come here. Like she used to come with her kids. Like she stayed in my house. She had her family here. Like I mean, her mother, her father, her brother, like all her classmates. But the one thing that was different, like I always was curious about politics. Again, like I cannot say that I'm an activist, but I went to all elections. I do believe that I have a right to have my say in the country, like future. And she was always kind of passive. And I asked her, like in Russia, like, are you going to vote? Like, who are you going to vote for, if I can ask? And she's like, no, I'm not going to. And like, well, we don't decide anything. It doesn't matter what I want. And no one I know, none of the people I know, she said also. It's like, well, but how can you allow that? And so that was kind of the only source of some disagreement for us. And we kind of, you know, chose not to just peek into that topic. And so when the invasion happened, I called her. Not called, I texted her and asked her about her mom. I said, like, is your mom going to be okay? Because we're getting bombed, and her mom was after a stroke. Like, she was not, you know, like completely like paralyzed or anything, but still like old enough and like not fully functional, let's say. And she was very dry, and you know, and she was like, she didn't say much, and she said like, well, my brother will take care of her, something like that. So she like immediately distanced herself. And she was always this like beyond politics kind of person. Okay, like we're not into that. And then like when I started being like very active on Instagram, like writing about what's happening, writing how I feel, and I wrote one post where I said that children of today's people in Russia will be paying for their, unfortunately, but they will be paying for their parents' choice that they make in today. So I said it's like, it's gonna affect generations and generations, and this hate is going to exist generations and generations.
Yeah.
And so like we kind of didn't communicate almost. And then somebody told me, like some of our mutual friends, she said like, did she block you? And it's like, I don't know why. And then I saw like, yeah, she really blocked me. And then I checked what she wrote in another media. There is like Russian Zen media. It's like, they also have this kind of blog kind. It's not like Instagram, but anyway, it's like, well, just, you know, like, what's some forum? Let's say it's like sort of like forum. And then I saw that what she wrote there was like answer to my post. That she said that those fucking Ukrainians are blaming our children, don't touch our children. And I was like, what? Like seriously? And then she started, you know, saying such things. First of all, she was repeating everything that propaganda was saying. All this, like at first, if you remember, they said like, no, all those like videos of bombing, they are staged. Like they are not real. Yeah, like they were made with like Hollywood special effects. So she was saying all that. Then she started saying like, when I last came to Kharkiv, nobody wanted to speak to me in Russian. Like seriously, we were there together. Like who was not speaking Russian to you? Seriously? She said like, in some bookstore, the assistant didn't want to talk to me when I spoke to him in Russian. And I was like, seriously, I was there. It's not true. So she started like remembering such things, you know, or making up, like exaggerating, like completely twisting all that. And so I was like, you know, that was such a blow to me. I think it was even more than when I saw some of the buildings getting bombed. I felt like so, you know, because she was like the person I trusted, just like I trusted to my children or husband, you know, like she felt like a family member. And when she started saying that, and she immediately, like, you know, like addressed to me with all that kind of like toxic talk after blocking me, yeah. So that really was a blow. So of course we stopped communicating, like we don't do that anymore. And that was a very bright example for me how the brain can rot very easily and very fast if you're willing to listen to propaganda. And what's more, you know, she said that she said like, I don't watch TV, like I'm not interested, I don't watch it. But then, you know, it kind of, you absorb it, it like, it just soaks into your head and you start repeating all that.
It's funny how many people I've had this conversation with where they'll say to me, and I say, you're just repeating Channel 1 propaganda shit. And they always say, I don't watch TV. And I think what I've come to understand is that there's so much propaganda pumped out to such a massive degree that fills people's conversations, it fills people, you know, they hear other people talking about it, they hear other people commenting on it, and just slowly it kind of, like you said, it kind of seeps into people's brains, even if they're not directly injecting it into their brains, you know?
Exactly, yeah, because I know she was not lying when she was saying that, like, I don't watch TV. She didn't have one. I know that she didn't. Yeah. But I noticed that she started repeating word by word what they were saying about those like laboratories, about the dirty nuclear bomb when they started that, about this like
combat
genetically modified mosquitoes, all that bullshit.
Yeah. I've had these conversations many times in the last 3 years as well, and it's just constantly. And these are all people who are far from politics.
Yep.
And I still have this conversation where even people who understand what's happening and who feel bad about it still do the yes, but what can we do with little people? And it's like, well, look what Georgians are doing. You know, Georgians are out there every night after night after night, getting beaten up, getting arrested, getting water cannoned, and they're still protesting. You know, that's what you can do. You can do that. Oh, it will change nothing.
Absolutely. You know, it gave me the understanding of how different we are. They kept saying that we are all the same, we're one people, all that stuff. And you know what? Like a lot of people here, including myself, well, I never thought that we are one people, but I never felt how different we are. It's like, yeah, you know, but we grew up on the same Soviet movies, yeah, the same cartoons, we were reading the same books. It kind of felt that it was like really, you know, the same like common space, like space filled with the same info content. And I really didn't realize how different it was. And our reactions to things, like our immediate, I don't know, like something happens here in Ukraine, we immediately want to help. Yeah, like we want to do something to people who are in trouble. I'm not saying that it's like 100% of people. Of course, like, shit happens. But generally, yeah, like this is a national character. And we hardly ever think that, what can I do? Come on, like you can do something. It's not that, I think it's getting dark. It's not that you cannot do anything. Like something depends on you. You are an active participant. You can build the space around you. And they, again, en masse, they don't think so. They really have, like what Chekhov wrote about this, like small man. Yeah, like they still believe in that. Like, well, what can we do? 1 second. We're just like small people, and there is nothing we can do, and it's all decided for us. There is somebody, like, there are authorities, they know better. It's like, seriously, but you are electing those authorities. It's like the way it should be. Like they are hired people, they are hired managers who you employ for a certain like length of time, and then you have complete right to change them if they're not coping. But they don't have this feeling. You probably remember that story, which also was pretty a good illustration for me, when Navalny team, whatever my attitude to that is, when they made that movie about riches of Putin and that like huge palace in Gelendzhik. For us, it was outrageous. And for them, it's like, but he's a Tsar, like he has the right to live like that. Really?
Yeah, I remember Navalny going back to Russia and thinking that maybe this movie was going to trigger some kind of reaction, that he would kind of return and lead this, and it's like everyone just shrugged their shoulders and kind of went, what do you expect? Yeah.
And all this, today, even today's protest, there are these good Russians trying to show something that they are, they're trying to walk away, like we are not with the regime, we are different. Somewhere deep inside there is good Russia, and it's all Putin, and people are not like that. That's such bullshit. But what they're trying to do, like they are totally, toothless protests, vegetarian protests. They are doing nothing. Like, oh, let's come and, just wave our torches. How is it helping? Unfortunately, freedom, again, I'll now like repeat some very beaten up phrase, but I still believe in it. Like, freedom is not given to you, you fight for it. Nobody grants you the right to have what you have. You have to do something to have it. You have to do something to take it. And I remember very well the phrase that one of our like fathers of our national idea said, that you should not want peace, you should want victory. And when now people say, well, peace to the whole world, no to war, let's have peace. It's like, unless there is a victory, there will be no peace.
Yeah.
Peace doesn't come by itself, you win it.
Yeah. I mean, I was in West Germany. I was in Germany in the summer, and I had this conversation a lot with a lot of Germans I know who, I guess for their own historical reasons and their own guilt about the Second World War, have this very strong kind of feeling of, we just want peace. And it's like, well, that's a lovely sentiment. How do Ukrainians get that peace? Like when you're being invaded and people are trying to your towns and kill you and take your children, how do you get peace? How does that work?
That's what Timothy Snyder said. Like, Europe has got the chance to not to repeat the same mistakes they made with Czechoslovakia in 1938. Yeah, it's the same story. It's like pacifying the ogre. I mean, it's not helping.
Yeah, I mean, there's that thing Snyder said that I think's really spot on, which is the only thing that's stopping us sliding into 1939 is Ukrainian resistance at the moment. And if Czechoslovakia had fought back harder in 1938, 1939 wouldn't have happened in the same way. And I think, I think there's a growing understanding of that, but I think it's a reality a lot of people in Western Europe try not to think about or not to look at, kind of just, somehow hope that everything will work out okay. And you see a lot of
they hope it will disappear by itself. We have this saying that, Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. You know, he gave a task, like he commissioned his scientists to develop some near immortality drugs, you know, like for maintaining physical and mental health. I'm not sure there is any much to maintain, but you know, he's not gonna die anytime soon. He's trying not to. You know, we have this saying, I'm not sure if there is like an equivalent. So like give somebody like a bad person, yeah, like give a jerk like your finger, and he will bite off your head, your hand to the shoulder.
Give them an inch.
So that's what's happening now.
I guess it's give them an inch and they take a mile in England.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I guess that would be an equivalent. So that's what's happening. And you know, it is very demotivating for us. It's very demotivating for Ukrainians to see how slow and unresponsive and bureaucratic all our partners are. We're immensely thankful, of course, for all the help we are getting, for everything, but it's happening so slowly, and they are giving it like tiny bit by bit, while we are losing lives of our best people. It is really demotivating. And when people say that, well, Ukrainians are also tired of the war, yes, we are. Yes, we are tired of this, but more than war itself, we are tired of looking at the whole world and like, seriously? Like, that's what you're doing? You pretended to be great countries, you are considered to be great powers, but you're acting like this ostrich hiding their head in the sand. Like, what's happening? Like, how can you be behaving like that? Because dictatorships have formed their own, like, you know, this axis of evil. Yeah, so they are decisive. They don't have to ask for permission from their you know, people. They act fast. Like, Russia needs missiles. Well, North Korea, it's such a pathetic country. North Korea is providing them it. No escalation. No, there's not escalation. But I don't know, getting missiles that have some American ingredients, yeah, like some constituents in this like long-range missiles. No, that's escalation. Like, really? What is there to escalate? Where else to escalate? So that's very demotivating, really. This is.
I find it incredible that the West has kind of decided that the war can only be fought on the territory of the country that's been invaded. It's like it's an insanity for me. It's like, so Russia can invade Ukraine, but Ukraine can't strike Russia. It's insane. It's like, what kind of rules of war is this?
It's absolutely surrealistic, and even this, you know, this international law, which actually has rested in peace already. Not at peace though. Like, it's already cancelled. Yeah, like, nobody pays any attention to this because it has been violated so many times. But even that, even like formal international law says that a country has the right to defend its territory, blah blah blah. But they are refusing us that right. And to me, that's absurd.
Sorry, Lena. I think part of the problem in the West is there's still a lot of guilt about shit that we've done ourselves in the last 20, 30, 40 years. So there's still this kind of anger about things like Iraq, and there's this kind of feeling that we were lied to and that we went into a war and didn't manage to stop a war that was incredibly damaging and that kind of caused great harm to Iraq. And there's a lot of people who are still stuck 15, 20, 25 years ago and still feel that kind of, we shouldn't get involved because foreign intervention is a bad thing. And I think a lot of people just haven't managed to recognize that the world now is not the world it was in 2005, that we're in a different place and that it requires a different kind of response. So I think part of it is definitely that sort of, you know, let's just keep out of this. It's not good to get involved in foreign conflicts.
Yeah, all this like isolation, trying to isolate themselves from it. Yeah, like, let's mind only our own business. But the world is so connected today. You cannot mind your own business within your borders. Like, they just don't want to understand. Like, any country who wants to be considered great, yeah, like the US, the UK, whatever, like the whole of European Union, they cannot stay away, like, because there was this, of course, yeah, like, and we all heard of that about like US, yeah, like all that Iraq, all this like stuff when they were lied, yes, and they were like taking too harsh measures, and all this was like with Bin Laden and all that, and Gaddafi and all that kind of thing, and they were involved, and then there was like a lot of blood, and all this like Kosovo and all that thing, and like Bosnia. So like it's all bad. It was all bad, and the US was called like global policeman, yeah, and it was like bad, and Russia is using that. It's like, why are you refusing us the right to
Yeah.
like to intervene if you did the same? And well, it's how it happened.
Can I ask you, Lena, and again, I'm sorry to ask such a sort of possibly painful question, but do you know anyone or have friends or family who are serving at the moment in the armed forces?
Yes, I do. Some of my students are serving, some people I know are serving, and unfortunately, there have been some losses. Some of my students have died in the war. And I remember that the first guy who I heard about, he just finished a course with me just before the invasion. It was like, I think it was like New Year, like we finished around New Year, and then the invasion started in February. I remember him really well, like, and then got I got this news, like, well, he was like a corporate client, so I work with an IT company, yeah, so he was like working within the company. And then I got the message from the company, and then I saw on their Instagram account that like this guy has died. And I remember him really well. I remember his son. I remember his plans, because one of the courses he was taking from me was presentations. And I always ask, like, how are you going to use the skill? What kind of presentations are you going to do? And he had plans, you know, like he had some stuff he wanted to develop. And then like I got this message that he was killed. He was the first one who I heard about. And then there were a few more. And, you know, it was the first time I got drunk, like, honestly, I needed to get drunk, like, as maybe silly as it sounds, but it was like so painful. He was not really close, I mean, a student, yeah, but I mean, come on, we care about our students. Yeah, it's not like just a person, it's like one of your close circle, more or less. Yeah, I know quite a few people. Some of my, I would not say very close friends, but some people I know well enough, yeah, they are serving, and some of them will never return.
Yeah, sorry to ask.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I've already cried about that.
I just, you know, I think teachers in other countries thinking about the students they teach and the idea that some of the students are going to be killed, it's a very difficult and sobering thing to think about. And I think I know it's a part of a lot of Ukrainian teachers' reality and not something that a lot of other people in other countries do think about yet, you know.
Yes, unfortunately so. Well, on the other hand, what I'm trying to do at least, yeah, like again from the very first days, I'm trying to give my followers and my students some motivation and some knowledge to speak up about
Yeah.
us. So I myself like go to some forums, you know, like Quora or like Reddit. Yeah, so I try to speak there. I try to leave comments. I try to answer questions.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to like teach my followers and my students do that. Like I often like publish some articles, like, you know, giving them some vocabulary, what words to say, how to say about that. So like I have probably chosen that my mission, that not only I will try to tell the truth, but through my students I can do that as well. And I always encourage like people just go there. There is a thread where people are asking questions, just answer them questions. This is how you can say, these are the words you can use, so give your point. Yeah, like I'm not trying to put my words into their mouth, of course, but I'm trying to give them, you know, some vocabulary, some patterns, just teach them something to be able to use.
Yeah. It's funny, I've been writing a talk that I'm going to do at IETFL in April, and one of the things I'm talking about is the way in which working with lots of Ukrainians for the last 3 years, I've been teaching a lot of vocabulary I never, you know, and just kind of things that come up just from talking to people about, like, you know, uh, sappers demining landmines and booby traps and
Yeah, I myself have picked up a lot of my vocabulary that I definitely would like not to have known. You know, all this like GMLRS, yeah, like cluster munitions. I wouldn't want to know that, but well, we had to learn it.
yeah, yeah. And just to kind of get near wrapping up, it may sound like a question, but how are you feeling about the kind of weeks and months to come? Because we have Trump coming in the US. We have the European Union sort of slowly trying to maneuver itself to some kind of more proactive position. You've obviously got instability within the European Union because you've still got Putin's little helper in power in Slovakia and in Hungary. God knows what's going to happen in France. You know, there's still this kind of general instability and sort of, I don't know, like inertia within Europe. And how are you feeling yourself?
You know, I'm probably a crazy optimist. I hope that the things that will come, there definitely will be some changes, but I hope they will be for the better, or at least they will push up some processes that will turn for the better, maybe eventually. As much as I dislike Trump, but it looks like now he is learning a little bit. And he has taken back his words that, oh, like I'll fix everything soon. It's just like that. Yeah, it looks like now he's trying to learn a little bit.
Complicated.
Yes, yeah. So he's starting to realize that it may not be as easy as he thought it would be. But I think that, well, there will be some changes. Maybe some changes will be painful for us, at least. Well, I do expect, yes, that we will be made to come to some agreement, maybe temporary, that will, you know, leave some territories for Russia. And we have the saying that there is nothing more forever than temporary, but hopefully it will not be the case. So I think there will be some changes. And well, you know, like I cannot say that we have come to some stalemate, but basically it's like nobody's winning. Yeah, like Russia is, you know, like moving a little bit, but seriously, it's not what they wanted. Yeah, they're just like getting all destroyed, like land, you know, burnt out land.
And I mean, the number of people dying are insane. It's just,
yes,
you know.
Absolutely. On the other hand, we are developing our weapons. Our drones are flying longer. They are carrying like more explosives. We have more missiles made here for which we don't have to ask permission. So I do hope that something's gonna change because it cannot last like this forever. And I think that this like coming year will probably bring some changes. I don't think they will be all like wonderful, but I think there should be something good. At least I want to believe in it. That's what I'm telling myself. That's what I'm like hoping for, because like we really need a change, because like this way it's like slowing down to some stalemate. It's not the stalemate yet, but it's like nobody's getting an upper hand.
Yeah, I guess it's just a very, very slow and brutal war of attrition at the moment.
It's just like grinding everyone, and that's it.
Yeah, and I guess it's who or what breaks first. Yeah, and I know from Ukraine and Ukrainians that Ukraine doesn't have the option. So it's, you know, the option is you cease to exist. So the thing I always remind people is, you know, Russia could end the war tomorrow if they wanted.
Absolutely.
They could end the war tomorrow. You know, they could just roll back and stop and worry about their own shit. But yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, Lena?
I guess not. I guess I would just like want to wish everyone happy Christmas, happy coming holidays. Really happy to see you, because we're having this like Christmas break from classes. I am like so used to having this routine. Yeah, so really want to like hope you have a good rest and we can go back in January to our classes. So just like wishing everyone Merry Christmas and hoping that all the wishes we made come true.
Thank you. And take care and look after yourselves and have a great break. And Slava.
Thank you.
Yeah.